The angels love it when you use hindsight to help connect the dots. Welcome, everybody. I'm Devon, Duerr, angel intuitive and spiritual teacher. I have some tips for you to help you deepen your language with the angels. We all have intuitive abilities. You are intuitive, but we also use our intuitive abilities differently. And the best way to figure out the way you use yours and the way you receive messages from your angels and your guides is to track them and to write them down, which gives me a chance to bring up a quick reminder, if you don't know, that I did release a custom journal called Book of Evidence, Proof Your Angels Are With You, that has custom templates designed to help you track your intuition. It actually even has a special intuition tracker in it that will help you easily reference special intuitive encounters, symbols, and signs. I'll let you go check that on my website or the link for Amazon below at your convenience, but I did want to mention that there because I have a story time to share with you that made me realize I want to continue to remind you all the ways we receive messages from the angels, and it's not always the same, and it's definitely not the same as the person next to you. You were born with intuitive abilities. You are intuitive. That's why you're here. That's why this video made its way in front of you, and your angels are here to help you achieve your dreams, your life purpose, to help you through challenges, and they're always sending you signs. It takes being open and aware, it takes understanding them, and believe it or not, you're developing your own secret language to connect and understand these messages. And the angels love it when you figure out what they're trying to say so that they can continue to send you more and deepen the connection. So let me tell you a little story time that happened recently for me, and then we'll review some of the ways that I recognized the angels were working with me, and maybe it'll remind you of some times that you were getting messages from the angels and you just weren't giving yourself credit. That's another big thing about writing down your experiences and tracking them, giving yourself the gift of hindsight by writing them down, is you can give yourself credit. We need to give ourselves credit for this work we're doing, and that we are intuitive and we are open to living a divinely guided life. I like to always say up front that God's angels are here to work with us. And whenever I do work with the angels, I say a prayer of protection to God, asking that I only connect with God's highest vibrational beings. So know that when you're receiving messages, they will always be loving and gentle and kind. They will not be fearful. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people get into a place of fear because they're noticing synchronicities and they're noticing signs, but they're not checking in to see if this is a message that is from love. And often our mind will step in and it will say, uh-oh, this might be a bad thing. And it can turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy. So know up front as you're listening to this story time and any tips from me that the angels will never tell you what to do, and they will not come from a place of fear. They may give you a nudge that's sudden and in your face, but you will not feel fear. It will feel like you are being divinely led. Now, also always remember to check in with your intuition, your gut, your heart, to see if that feels like guidance to you. Because again, remembering that God's angels are here to support and love you, it will come from a place of love. So recently, I was traveling back from a trip to the beach on the East Coast. I absolutely love going there in the summers. I grew up going there. My grandmother lived there. We have very dear friends there. And I just came back from a trip with my family from there, and I knew ahead of time that we had been experiencing a lot of flight delays in the US here, and I was prepared for that, but I was hoping for the best, and I was using my normal affirmations that I am in divine flow. I was asking for protection around the flight and the trip, but I also knew that if there were any delays, it would be in our highest interest. Well, the trip up there was absolutely flawless. There were no delays. Everything went very smoothly. I was feeling very in divine flow. However, the night before we left to come home to head to the airport in Newark, New Jersey, I did have some uncomfortable energy come in, and I was clearing and asking the angels to clear the energy, and I was just feeling anxious. So I went into a place of prayer. That's my first go-to tip there, is if you're feeling anxious and unsure about the messages you're getting, go into prayer with God. That can really help ground and center you. And then I was asking for everything to work out in the highest interest of my family and me. So we get to the airport and everything goes fairly smoothly, a couple hiccups here and there, and with the getting my baggage checked or getting through security. And I thought, okay, it's a little bit bumpier today. And if you do follow astrology at all, the energy was there to be a bumpy day. We get to the gate, we board the plane easily on time, we're buckled up, we feel like we're getting ready to pull away from the gate when the pilot comes on the speaker and says, "I apologize everybody, but we have determined this plane is not safe to fly and we need to deboard the plane. This also means we need to find a new plane and I'm not sure when or if that's going to happen." Well, I immediately went into a place of prayer again, and I asked the angels to help us find a new plane if it was in our highest interest. We deboarded the plane. My daughter asked me, "What's going on, Mommy?" And I said, "Ask the angels to help us find a new plane if it's in our highest interest." We all got off the plane, and sure enough, I was sitting there reflecting on a few things that had happened before we got onto the plane. First of all, when we first boarded the plane, we got stopped right before getting onto the plane, and there was this big delay. Then I noticed a family next to me where there was a little boy and a little girl. The little girl was quite fussy. She was upset. She was uncomfortable. She was trying to exit the area of the plane, and she definitely did not feel comfortable in the energy. The mom helped her get calm, and I helped her laugh, and we played around a little bit until they finally let us get on the plane. But then I heard the little boy, who was probably about 3 years old, say, "I don't like this, Mommy." Well, she didn't hear him because she was busy with the baby and we were all getting our luggage onto the plane. And I remember noticing that, and I said another prayer. "Archangel Michael, please help clear this plane of any lower vibrations. Allow this plane to be protected and safe for all of us." I didn't give that another thought until we deboarded the plane, and I realized that even those little kiddos were picking up on something being wrong. It turned out what was wrong with the plane was the emergency door would not close completely, which can be very dangerous, right? So I immediately knew we did not belong on that plane, and there was a lot of signs and symbols that were not scary, but they were subtle, and they were getting our attention that it was going to be in our highest interest to not be on that plane. So we deboard the plane, and I immediately start thinking of how do we make lemonade out of these lemons? Because I've learned that when you detach from an outcome, it opens new pathways. Well, I realized we're only about an hour from the city of New York, and my daughters had never been there, so my sister and I start trying to figure out ways to find a trip to New York in case we don't find another plane. No sooner had we started looking at the cost of hotels and ways to get to New York, did they come on the announcements and say, "Guess what? We found a new plane, head to this gate." And it happened very smoothly and quickly. Within a short period of time, we had boarded the plane again. But again, things felt a little bit off. Things felt stuck. So I asked for the energy to be cleared and that it be in our highest interest for us to get off the ground. But we were getting into a situation where not all the things had made it onto the plane yet before the flight crew was going to have to change due to duty limits. I asked the angels to help everything to go into divine flow if it was in our highest interest to be on that plane, and that otherwise we would make do and we would find new accommodations. Right at the last minute, everything came together, went smoothly. We were able to take off on time and got home safely, and really not that much later than I expected. But all along, I stayed unattached to the outcome. I just wanted the outcome to be in the highest interest of all involved. And so that's a big tip right there. When you are noticing signs and symbols, always note that it's going to be in your highest interest to pay attention to them. And even if it's something you may not want to hear, like there may not be a plane for you to fly home on today, it's important to stay open and aware of there's always a higher reason for that. The other thing I wanted to point out was the way I was getting validation from all kinds of things around me, and even others who may not be intentionally paying attention to signs and symbols from the angels were picking up on the energy too. So I was getting validation. Now again, it was nothing from fear, it was just this subtle discomfort, like something is off, something is not in divine flow. And I always look at it from that perspective. If there is something that is perceived as a roadblock, it's in your highest interest, and this is when it's a good good time to pause and ask the angels for a sign about what direction to go next. Now, just again with that reminder there that the angels are never going to tell you something that's not in your highest interest. They're not going to tell you what to do. They're not going to scare you, but they might urge you to pay attention to your intuition and to stay open to things working out in the highest interest. That's why I said at the beginning of this time, when I've worked with beginners who are opening up to noticing repetitive numbers, noticing certain signs like animals outside their window, you want to be careful you're not going into a place of, does this mean something bad? You want to work directly with the angels and ask that these messages be in your highest interest. Now, one of the things that angels know about me is that I like to connect the dots. And so they knew that if I paid attention to multiple things in a row saying, okay, this energy is uncomfortable, that it would validate my own energy that we didn't belong on that plane and things needed to shift. And just by opening up to that and opening up to another timeline, so to speak, where maybe we went to New York, it unblocked the energies and allowed this to flow. So it's a little bit of a more complicated story there, but I really felt the need to share this with you while it was fresh on my mind because I wanted you to notice synchronicities in everything in your life. And one thing I will hear people refer to is whether the angels will be upset with them or they'll stop sending them messages if they don't notice. This is not the case at all. They might just change tactics. If they're trying to get your attention through repetitive numbers and it's not connecting for you, you're not getting it, or you're going into a place of fear, then they're going to change tactics. They might start getting your attention through lights flickering in the house, or a certain bird always flying past your window when you're having a certain thought. There's all kinds of ways we connect with our angels. We can hear messages in our mind. We can get tinglings and sensations in our bodies. I like to call them angel bumps. But there's all kinds of ways, and you have to figure out what that is for you, and you have to track them. Now, the good, exciting part, what I started off this video saying that the angels love it when you use hindsight, is if you will write these things down every chance you get, even if you don't know what they mean, every time you see a certain animal, every time you feel tingly, every time you see repetitive numbers, and then make it a practice to every once in a while go back and review those and see if you can figure out what the messages meant now that you have hindsight. Oh, you know what? That little girl was fussy getting on the plane. The little boy said he didn't like the energy. I was feeling anxious the night before. We didn't belong on that plane. The angels were letting us know you felt the energy correctly. Pardon me for that brief break there. I am recovering from a little cold I picked up on the way back from New York as well. So you might even be able to hear it in my voice a little bit, but I was so excited to tell you this story. I had to get on air today and tell you this. So the angels were excited to see that was validated. It all went in my journal. And I will certainly notice that next time if I start to feel that way. And the reminder was to stay in a place of prayer, in a place of gratitude, to know that everything will work out for my highest interest if I pay attention. And to not get attached to the idea that I was going to get on that plane and go straight home, to be open to the idea that there might be a safer and better way. And who knows, if it had ended up that we did end up taking the girls to New York, that would have been a really neat experience for them. Or maybe it wouldn't have been in our highest interest because it would have been too costly, and the angels knew that as well. But that's why we stay open, we ask, and then we notice the signs, and then we use that gift of hindsight to connect the dots. And that's where the angels will continue to use that message. Oh, she figured it out when we sent her that 444 3 days in a row, this is a good thing for her to focus on. So I hope that's helpful with those messages. I'm trying to do more of these story times to give you ideas. For those of you who have been able to begin tracking your intuition already, I want to give you opportunities to do that. And if you haven't seen my August angel messages or any of my other monthly angel messages, I encourage you to pick one randomly and go listen to it. And then go check your calendar and your photos on your phone and see what else was going on for you during that time in your life and see if any of the dots connect. This way we can begin practicing this hindsight, practicing connecting the dots, and the angels love that because they know they're getting through to you and they will continue to send you messages. You will begin to trust your connection even more. The information will come in faster and everything just begins to move more quickly in the connection. But you don't have to worry that they're going to stop sending your messages. You're always getting messages and encouragement and guidance from the angels. You just have to stay open. And if you don't know what it means, then just go into a place of gratitude, write it down, and then use hindsight later to figure out what it means. Well, I hope this story time was helpful and these tips were helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or you have anything else you want to add to it. And also let me know what other types of things you'd like to learn about. I get some really great questions from all of you. In fact, I'd like to address a comment that I had under, I believe, the angel messages or it was one of my story times about how do I talk to the angels. I talk to them both out loud and in my head. So an example on the plane, while we were getting off the plane with people all around me, I was doing it in my mind, saying a prayer to God and talking to the angels. But there are lots of times where I feel safe in the space to just talk out loud to the angels and say, angels, please help me with this. So keep that in mind. And I am thinking about offering an online course to help teach you how to use your journal and deepen your connection with the angels. I do have very specific tips and tools I use with beginners. So if you're a beginner working with the angels, let me know if you're interested in that. I had a course open in 2021 that we did live that was wonderful, and I'm thinking about doing something similar again. And otherwise, I just want to thank you so much for being here. If you're interested in checking out my journal, don't forget to check that out. Don't forget to check out my August angel messages and my other story times on connections with passed away loved ones and dream time interpretation. It's all there in the playlist below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for liking and sharing these videos. And until next time, remember, take time every day to connect with the angels.